Hi, I'm Athena Hansen-Hren, conference producer for Technology Networks, and I'm here to introduce our next talk from our Technology Spotlight sponsor, SciNote, ELN, LIMS, and ROI, practical discussion on strategy, costs, considerations, and pitfalls to avoid. I am pleased to welcome our next speakers, Matjaz Hren and Audrey Apgar. Matjaz is the Vice President of Product Management for SciNote. He started as a researcher with a PhD in biotechnology, working on projects in both basic and applied science. He then co-founded Biosystemica, a life sciences software development company where he developed SciNote Electronic Lab Notebook. Now, Matjaz leads the product development team, advancing SciNote as a digitization solution for the lab of the future. Audrey Apgar is the Customer Success Manager for SciNote. She is responsible for the implementation and onboarding and supports some of SciNote's biggest clients, including the FDA. Prior to joining SciNote, Audrey spent 3 years in the pharmaceutical industry, following on lyophilization with an emphasis on the development, research, and material production. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Large Animal Science. A warm welcome to you, Matjaz and Audrey. Following the presentation, we will have a Q&A session, and we welcome any questions that you may have. Please ask questions using the Q&A system to the right-hand side of the video player. You can also use this feature to connect with attendees and discuss the talk. So feel free to take advantage of the chat system by introducing yourself and sharing your thoughts during this presentation. You can also benefit from some fantastic supporting literature from SciNote, which you can download for free below the media player. And if you experience any technical difficulties during the presentation, please request help using the technical help icon in the menu on the left-hand side of the player. Now I will hand over to Matjaz and Audrey to begin their presentation.
Thank you, Athena. So let's start with an overview of what we'll hear today. So I'll start with a brief introduction of what ELNs and LIMS are, and then I'll focus on return on investment for ELNs. And then my colleague Audrey, she'll talk about the common challenges during transition to one of such tools and how to maximize your ROI. Let's start now with briefly discussing what ELNs and LIMS are. So they are both frequently used digital solution in laboratories. Historically, they have been quite different in terms of feature sets, but recently they've been becoming more and more similar. ELNs are primarily used in research laboratories that need to record a lot of unstructured data. A lot of planning and recording of experiments is usually what these types of labs do. LIMS systems, on the other hand, we can describe them as more sample-centric types of applications, so softwares, and they are primarily used to record a lot of more structured data that's typically related to samples. Types of laboratories where LIMS systems are being used are diagnostic laboratories, quality control laboratories, and service types of laboratories. So we'll be focusing our talk more on the ELNs. However, despite their differences, both systems have a similar implementation challenges and ROI. So now let's start discussing about the return on investment when you are transitioning to an ELN or a LIMS. So I'll be discussing these 4 topics or contributors to your ROI. And let's start with the first one, so with data digitalization. With ELNs, so when you start using an ELN, you start using all the benefits and advantages of digital platforms. So you have everything stored in one place. The content records can be accessed from anywhere, home, office, or lab. And ideally, ELNs should make it easy for you to organize your experiments, your data, and to cross-reference it. And therefore, the searchability through the digital content really becomes an important time saver. And you actually don't need to look through individual records that are stored separately or stored in notebooks. Let's move on to the compliance and guidelines. So in order for ELNs to be used in regulated environments, such as GXP, FDA regulated or even in laboratories that are ISO 17025 certified, digital platforms need to have built-in compliance and data management features that actually help you meet these requirements. A lot of these features ensure the data integrity and traceability and include audit trails, electronic signatures, access control, and other forms of detailed traceability of who did what and when. All these features actually help you or facilitate you to get to your compliance. Although in the end, some of the work actually needs to be performed by the laboratories themselves, in addition to the ELN or the tool that they are using. So I'll be focusing a little bit on the time saving. So time saving is probably one of the top few ROI contributors. Everyone connects saving time with efficiency. So ELNs have typically a lot of features that help you save time. And these features include experiments or experimental workflows that can be turned into repeatable templates. SciNote here has a wonderful visual experimental workflow functionality. Then other functionalities include libraries of interactive and version protocols or standard operating procedures that can be reused again and again in experiments. ELNs can include inventory management of samples, biological specimens, reagents, equipments, and their consumption. Frequently, the cross-referencing between all these items, so between samples, reagents, protocols, users, and their activity, should become effortless in the ELNs. And this then finally contributes to very efficient searchability that ELNs offer through now connected and well-annotated data. And finally, collaboration. A lot of research in industrial or in academic setting is done as a collaborative effort. So functionalities that improve collaboration improve your ROI. And these include the easy sharing of protocols, results, workflows, other templates, as well as the whole experimental work with your teammates or outside of your company or organization, while still maintaining the ability to control access, so to maintain who sees what and to what level. Then other functionalities such as creating or generating reports that you can share with external collaborators or internally, and functionalities such as very basic commenting, conversation, and tagging inside the application really contribute to efficient collaboration. We do have a case study for a more practical info on collaboration. You can access it on our website in the blogs section, or you can just scan the QR code and access it. I'll hand it over now to Audrey. She'll explain a little bit about the common challenges when implementing a digital tool such as ELN. Audrey, here you go.
Thank you. All right, so there's quite a few things that we see pop up when you're trying to make the transition to a new tool. First one's going to be poor implementation ownership. The team knows that they need the tool, but no one really wants to take the responsibility to manage and kind of spearhead it. We also see lacking organizational buy-in, which is when not everyone sees the value in making that transition to a new tool. I also see quite a bit of groups expecting an overnight change. And while I wish we could wave our magic wand and everything happens overnight, it is a gradual process. It does take time, but I can assure you, you're going to start seeing those changes to your processes and improvements pretty quickly. And the last one that I see quite a bit is the resistance to adopt new processes. A few of us are probably familiar with the saying, quote, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." And that's how a lot of folks feel about paper notebooks. And paper's great. It's served us well for a while. But I think once you take the chance to go digital and see all that it has to offer, you're going to really enjoy making that transition, and it'll help others make the transition as well. You're going to want to work with a partner who helps you tackle these challenges and address them from the beginning of your implementation. If these go unresolved, your implementation is going to suffer, and thus your ROI will suffer as well. So how do we maximize our ROI? The first thing you want to do is focus on selecting a tool that best fits your needs. Talk internally, see what your goals are for it, and what problems you want to solve. You also want to focus on planning how your implementation will be rolled out. It's important to identify end users who will be the champions of this new tool and also come up with a timeline that works for your lab. I also recommend considering cloud-based options. When you go for a tool that's hosted on the cloud, that means there's less maintenance for you. And when there's less maintenance for you, that keeps more money in your pocket. My last recommendation is to look for a provider that offers good customer support. This is going to be key. When you have a resource that works with you to cut back on implementation, that can boost your adoption, and your team's more likely to tackle something new if they feel that they have the resources to help them. The takeaway here is a supportive vendor partner will increase your ROI. If you want to learn more about this, check out the downloadable resources. We've talked quite a bit about ELNs, and now I just want to take a moment to highlight our ELN, SciNote. And with SciNote, you have the opportunity to customize it to fit your needs. So if your group has really defined workflows, or you're in the process of implementing these, you can tailor SciNote to help you achieve that. SciNote also helps you to streamline your lab management and processes, and we also offer implementation with a customer success manager. These two things are what greatly are going to save time for you. SciNote also offers the ability for efficient discussion and collaboration. So whether you're working with groups inside your lab group or across other labs, you do have the opportunity to collaborate and share your work. Earlier, I mentioned that I recommend looking for a cloud-based software, and SciNote is cloud hosted. We offer a tool that is going to allow you to access it from anywhere, but also give you the security in mind that you know your data is safe. Last thing is SciNote does offer plans depending on what compliance or regulatory requirements you have. Whether you're working towards it or you do have to meet it, we have options for you, such as a 21 CFR Part 11 feature. So what does it look like to work with us? I'm just going to read a quick quote here that says, "We found SciNote's trial process to be crucial to the success of our transition, since it allowed us to pick and choose which features work best for us. SciNote then trained all of our staff, and we transitioned every project to the ELN." So takeaway from today is focus on finding a partner, not a vendor. When you have the support, not only internally, but from an implementation and support team, it'll make a great difference in your ROI. So I want to thank everyone for your time and attention today. You'll see we've got these fancy QR codes on here. So if you want to connect with us or SciNote, you can just scan those with your device. And with that, I think we're ready to tackle a few questions.
Thank you so very much, Matjaz and Audrey. I'm sure that everyone agreed that was a really fantastic talk. I can see that we've received some questions already, so I'll move straight into the Q&A now. Your first question, how long does the implementation and onboarding process take for migration from paper to an ELN?
Awesome. Yeah, I can tackle this one. So it really depends. What's going to come down to is how much time you can devote in the beginning and also the amount of information you're trying to load in. Are we to pull in historical data? Are we just starting with a new project from scratch? I've got groups who say, they want to do it over 6 months, and I have groups who wanted to do it yesterday. But when you have a supportive partner, they're going to help you try to, meet that timeline and do what we can to make it fit the time you have to devote. So if I had to give a timeline, I'd say 6 weeks, but it could be less, could be more, depending on your group.
Fantastic stuff. So it seems like there's just lots of factors in here. Another question for you. Are there security concerns when it comes to using a cloud-based ELN?
Okay, I can take this question. So thinking back a couple of years ago when SciNote was starting out as a product and as a company, we've received quite a lot of questions and concerns about the security concerns about the cloud system. So not just specifically about SciNote or ELNs, in general, concerns about using cloud systems that are hosted somewhere else and not on premises. But over the years, we actually saw that the level of concern has greatly reduced, and I'm thinking about a couple of reasons here. So first one is that the companies, so the end users, really got used to the fact that it's not really necessary and maybe not the most secure way that all the records, either in physical or in electronic versions, are stored locally, so within their, let's say, line of sight, to speak, to mention it like that. The second thing is that maybe this general wave of digitalization and adoption of SciNote, of software as a service, such as SciNote. So the SaaS model became a bit more usual, and companies realized, so the end users realized that this is something that offers quite a bit of savings in terms of maintenance, in terms of the fact that you can get, security updates, security product releases along with the new features out a bit more effortlessly than or seamlessly than if you have, services hosted and maintained by your IT team, and then in general, the security system of large platform providers such as Amazon, Google, Microsoft, to name just a couple of the large ones, where usually a lot of cloud platforms is being hosted. SciNote is hosted on one of those. All these large platforms typically have excellent cybersecurity features and are much more up to date than, let's say, locally maintained IT infrastructure. This especially goes for smaller companies where you maybe are not focusing on cybersecurity and IT infrastructure as much as you are on your basic core processes. And independently of those, of course, those should not be excuses for digital platforms such as SciNote not to have anything additional. So these platforms, including SciNote, do have certain data protection measures in place, both in the form of IT infrastructure security measures, data backups, as well as in the form of cybersecurity related processes. So to summarize, I think that greatly, so these security concerns have greatly diminished in the recent times.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Matjaz. Another question for you. What's the difference between ELN and other online digital notebooks like OneNote or Evernote?
Sure. So when we look at digital notebooks, something like OneNote or Evernote is going to be more of a kind of a flat document, a flat file, whereas an ELN has got more elements to it. It could have an interactive inventory, it could have workflows, it could have protocol management, it could have user assignment and due dates. So that flat feature of a kind of a running notebook can be a part of an ELN. But an ELN isn't necessarily a part of these flat documents. So I'd say the main difference is going to be a more robust tool opposed to a flat file.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Audrey. Just one last question for you both, if that's all right. Can I use SciNote to connect to other digital tools that we use in the lab?
Yeah, I can tackle this one. So short answer is yes. Many labs have established digital landscape, which with this I mean that they have other digital tools such as LIMS systems, ERP, CRMs, instrument or reagent management systems, and so on. These digital tools need to be connected to an ELN, for example, SciNote. And the ideal way to connect these third-party platforms with an ELN is via the API. SciNote, as any other modern digital tools, does have an open and a well-documented API. There's a ton of API endpoints there through which you can connect third-party tools and automate that connection. This will require some, programmatical knowledge on your end, but at SciNote, we can direct you to some appropriate resources to help you manage and facilitate the integration. So shortly, yes, SciNote can be integrated with digital tools.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today. Any questions that we didn't have time to get to will be sent to our speakers after the event. While you're here, don't forget to check out all of the free to download literature and resources from SciNote available below the live stream player. And as with all the other talks in the event, this talk will now be available to view whenever you want for the next 30 days. And that just leaves me to say thank you again, Matjaz and Audrey, and we'll be back soon with the next talk.